Hey everybody, it's Mr. Loose, and your technique of the week is color continued. So in the last video, I did an introduction on color and showed you the color wheel and just the basics about working with color. Color is one of the elements of art, and in my opinion, it is one of the most complicated elements. There's so much to it, and I had to break it up into multiple videos, but even still, we're just on the surface of what color is, what it can be, and the whole theory that goes into it. But today I'm going to explain different color schemes that will really help you when creating your artwork. So up here I have my color wheel as a reference for you to see, and as I explain color theory. And let's get started. So the first thing about a color wheel is, as you can tell, there are two sides to it if you were to split it in half, okay? One side is divided up by warm colors. The other side is divided up by cool colors. So our warm colors are the colors that when you look at them, you naturally think of summer or heat, and that actually plays a huge part in our lives. If you've ever noticed on the water faucets, sometimes you see a red to let you know that that means that's the hot water, and a blue, and that represents the cold water. And that's universal. You see that everywhere. So we consider these warm colors because they look hot. They make us feel hot, or it's what comes to mind. And then you have your cool colors, okay, which you usually think of like a breeze or the ocean or maybe winter, okay? Warm and cool. So to start off, for our warm colors, we're going to have red, orange, and yellow. And of course, there are so many more colors, but we're just doing just a quick little note just to help us remind us for our visual journals. And then we have our cool colors, which would be blue, green, and violet. So those are our warm and cool colors, okay? And you can see that the color wheel is even divided up. You have your warm colors over here and your cool colors over here. Interesting. Now, let's move on to analogous colors. Now, analogous colors are the colors that are right next door to each other on the color wheel. So if we look up here, you could, let's say I pick yellow-orange, okay? Yellow-orange, and the colors that are right next to it, like yellow and orange and red-orange, those are analogous colors because they go boop, 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 boop. They're all right next to each other. If I was to randomly pick another color like violet, then red-violet and blue-violet would also be analogous colors. They are all right next to each other. Now, it can't be all of them, right, because that would be the whole color wheel. So you just have to pick a color, and then the ones that are next to it would be its analogous color scheme. So I'm going to do red, orange. So I'm going to have to make it, put some red, a little bit of orange in there. And let's do orange. Mix this a little bit more. The red, orange, orange, and yellow orange. All right. So red, orange, orange, and yellow orange. Those are analogous colors because they are all right next to each other. Okay? Right next to each other on the color wheel. Now we're going to hop on over to complementary colors. Complementary colors are everywhere, okay? So I like to use sports teams as examples because we're all familiar with sports teams and their colors. Even if you don't like sports, you at least have seen their uniforms or the colors somewhere throughout your city. So a complementary color are any two colors, just two, any two colors that are right across from each other on the color wheel. For example, here is red, okay, and right across from red is green. Red and green, okay? Red and green are right across from each other on the color wheel, so that makes them complementary colors. And whenever you see red and green put together, it automatically just looks beautiful to the eye. It's pleasing and it looks nice. That's why at Christmas time, the Christmas colors are red and green. You see a lot of that together because they're complementary colors. They look good. Another example would be orange and blue, also right across from each other on the color wheel. Orange and blue, the Denver Broncos, the Houston Astros. Those teams use orange and blue for their team colors. They're complementary. That's why they look so good together. And then the last one is violet and yellow. Violet and yellow are complementary colors. Think of Louisiana State University or the Chicago Bears, violet and yellow. Those are their complementary colors. They're directly across from each other. And when you put them together, they look pleasing. So you'll see those color schemes everywhere. So let's make our little notes. So we have red and green. Those are our complementary colors because they're right across from each other, red and green. And then we have blue and orange. And then last but not least, we have yellow and violet. Okay, so those are our complementary colors right across from each other on the color wheel. Now we're going to go down to triad. Now triad means three. So it's any three colors that form a triangle. So with a complementary color, it's just two colors right across from each other, right? A triad is any three colors, three. So I'm just going to do a simple one. I'm going to do the primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. This color wheel is kind of an oval because of the way it was printed on the paper, but we know it's a circle. But if we have red and yellow and blue, they form a triangle. You see that? Boop, boop, boop. Forms a triangle. All right. Now, it doesn't have to be those three colors, but it's any three colors that form a triangle. So if I wanted to do red, orange, okay, and let's see here, yellow, green, and blue, violet. That would work as well because those are three colors that make a triangle. Okay, it's any three colors on the color wheel that make a perfect triangle like that. That is what is called a triad color scheme. All right, so red, blue, and yellow. And like I said, it doesn't have to be just those three colors. It could be any three colors on the color wheel, but I just like to use that as an example. All right, and now, last but not least, one of my personal favorites, monochromatic. Now, monochromatic is when you have multiple versions of the same color. So what that means is you pick one color, any color, and you have it different lightness and darknesses to it, right? Like a value scale. So as a refresher, A value scale is when you have multiple versions of the same color. That is monochromatic. All 4 of these are red. This is all red. But we have different darkness and lightness of that same red. This value scale is monochromatic. So for our little scale here, we're going to start off by doing really, really dark. And then we'll get a little bit softer, not much, just a little bit. Okay, but it's the same blue. And then a little bit softer. Super, super soft. Okay, so that is our value scale. Monochromatic. It's all blue, but it's different darkness and lightnesses of blue. Think of it like a volume control. Like when you're listening to music and you turn the music up really, really loud because it's a great part, and it's bam, it's loud, it's bold. That would be the dark one. But then you slowly turn it down. It's still the same song, even though it gets softer and lighter, right? And that's like monochromatic. It's still the same color. It's just a little bit softer and not as loud and dark and heavy and crazy, okay? So that's value scale, right? Monochromatic, excellent. And a great idea for that is when you have multiple versions of the same color, is it makes your work, even though it might all be blue, it makes it interesting. Like look at how, like I'm using all of the same blue, but when I use different amounts of pressure, it adds a sense of depth to just some simple little triangles that I did, right? So isn't that super cool? And if we just add, and it just really creates an interesting little picture, right? And of course, these are just triangles, but you could do so much more with it. So this is Color Continued. These are just different color schemes of how you can incorporate color into your artwork to make it specifically interesting. So you're not just randomly throwing a bunch of colors in there. If you want it to come off stronger, then you can pick a color scheme and it's going to make your work so much more interesting and have more depth to it, that instead of just randomly putting like, oh, I'll just do this, this, and this. So you could either do like a cool color scheme or a warm color scheme, or you could pick one color and have multiple versions of it, like monochromatic, or if you wanted lots of color all over the place, and you could do a triad color scheme, or you could even, to make it super visually interesting, you could do complementary or analogous, right? I hope that helps you, and go get them.